Hello, Packers fans, wherever you may be. It's time for your Sunday morning pregame edition of the Pack Attack Cast for the Cleveland Browns hosting your Green Bay Packers. It's an exciting game for probably not many people in the general public, but for a Packers fan, this is a great game after 10 days away from our Packers. And this is a trap game, in my opinion, so it's really important to see how the Green Bay Packers perform in this game. Championship teams pound, pound bad teams in the NFL. And the Cleveland Browns, despite having one of the better defenses in the league, overall is a bad team. They're bad on special teams, they're bad on offense. The one thing they have going for them is defense. I'm not taking that away from the Cleveland Browns at all, but they're just not a complete team. So the Green Bay Packers, this is a statement game for your Green Bay Packers. Are they going to be the type of Super Bowl contender that stomps bad teams into the dirt? Or are they going to be a playoff team that lowers down to the competition that they're against and doesn't really put the dagger into their opponent? This is why this is a very important game for the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers should, if you look at it on paper, win this game by 2 scores. That's 8 points or more. And yet, it's hedged to 7.5. It started out almost at 9, went down to 7.5, and as of this morning, the spread is at 8 for the Packers. I still think the Packers are going to cover 8, but I feel like it would be more if the Packers didn't have a history of playing down to their opponents. And that's something the Packers need to show today. They need to show that they are a dominant, cutthroat, throw the enemy down and beat them up type of team, because that is what it takes to win a Super Bowl. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll see that today. Now, historically, let's look at it so far this season. They destroyed the Lions by more than this spread. Lions are a much better team. They beat the Commanders by more than this spread. Commanders are a much better team than Cleveland. So can the Packers rise to the occasion and dominate this team? The Packers have to, if they win the turnover game, they played good enough on special teams not to make it an impact in the game, they should win this game very handily. Now, we did get good news yesterday, and I was very excited about this. I had almost accepted that Tucker Kraft wasn't going to play in this game, but now reports are out there that Tucker Kraft is expected to play. Is he going to be 100%? Is he going to be limited? So a couple things here. I don't think the Packers would let him play if there was a chance of re-injuring that knee. They might throw a brace on him for this game just to make sure that they have full stability in that knee. Wouldn't surprise me if they took some extra precautions with that knee. But I don't think the Packers would let him play in this game unless they felt, number one, it couldn't be re-injured, and number two, his availability for the next week and the rest of the season would not be impacted by this game. So I think Tucker Kraft is going to be full go in this game. Word of caution. We don't play fantasy here, but it's important to note that let's say the Packers get up to a 2-touchdown plus lead in this game. Are they more likely to say, hey, Tucker, why don't you take a series off? We'll put Musgrave out there for this series as our offensive tight end. I think that would make a lot of sense. So if this game gets out of hand, I don't expect Tucker Kraft to stay in just to stay in. Sorry, coming over a little bit of a cold. Sorry about that. So, all those things factored in, Tucker Kraft will be playing in this game. Now, I'm curious about how this got out, because I don't think Matt LaFleur is too happy about the certainty for a questionable player that he's going to play coming out a day before. I don't think it would impact how the Browns would prepare, because they have a veteran staff, coaching staff, that would be telling them, "Hey, assume Tucker Kraft is going to play. We're gonna prepare assuming that," because that's just good sense and that's good coaching. So I don't think it's going to impact anything in the game. But don't be surprised if the Packers get a big lead. You see a whole bunch of Musgrave out there and not a lot of Tucker Kraft. And I would hope that would be the case. So that leaves the last true pregame decision to be Zach Tom to play in this game. Now, I could see the pros and cons either way. On the one hand, if he's not 100%, we don't want to see him get injured worse, especially with the Cowboys coming up and then a bye week after that. So there is plenty of opportunity to say, we don't need Zach Tom in this game. The other side of it is continuity is very important, and we want to get our starting offensive line out there as much as possible, because Zach Tom helps the rest of the offensive line with his abilities, okay? He elevates, just like Micah Parsons elevates the defense, maybe not to the same extreme. Zach Tom out on the field helps Sean Ryan, helps Elton Jenkins, helps Jordan Love, knowing that he's got better protection on the right side than if they have another player out there. So it is a positive effect. So I'm on the fence. I think it's about 50-50 if Zach Tom plays. In fact, I'll go one step further and I'll say it's probably 75% chance he doesn't play. 50-50 health-wise, in my opinion, whether he's good to go. And this will truly be a game-time decision. And number two, whether the coaching staff wants to risk Zach Tom in a game where they should win pretty handily. If you can beat the Commanders without Zach Tom, then I think you could beat the Cleveland Browns without Zach Tom. So I think it's about 75% that Zach Tom does not play in this game. If he does play, then they have to feel really good about where he is health-wise, because it is a risky move. So that's the biggest thing injury-wise. Tucker Kraft appears to be in, and I'm actually literally betting on that because I put him into my parlay yesterday as soon as I got the news. So Tucker Kraft is supposed to play. Zach Tom is truly going to be a game-time decision. The Cleveland Browns actually have a number of players who are game-time decisions or highly questionable in this game, including their offensive line. And if those players do not play, this Packers defense is going to feast, and they might end up being number one defense in the league after today if they have a big game against the Cleveland Browns and the Packers offense is successful against the Cleveland Browns. They could flip the script. Right now, for defense, power rank on defense, the Packers are ranked first. Cleveland Browns are ranked the 11th. But there are certain things that Cleveland Browns do very well on defense, especially they're effective in man coverage, and they're also effective at stopping the run. So those are two things that will keep the Cleveland Browns in this game. But I do think that if the offensive line has people that are out for the Cleveland Browns, the Packers defense is going to feast, and this is going to be a fun game, much like week 1 against the Lions, because I could easily see the Packers get 5 or 6 sacks in this game against Joe the Statue Flacco. If the offensive line has backups and Joe Flacco is standing back there like he does, like a statue, this is not a good game for the Cleveland Browns. So let's take a look at the game. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Using PFF here. Now, I have some concerns about PFF and some of their rating strategies, although it feels like they're being a little fair to the Packers this year. But overall, they really just do have a good format to help you look at the game. So let's take a look at the team metrics, and then we're going to look up some metrics. And then to close things out, I've got a really nice parlay for you guys that like to wager. Once again, wager responsibly and only if you have the extra money. And this is not brought to you by McCafe, but McDonald's. Hey, if you'd like to do a sponsorship, I'm open to it. Let's talk. But it is brought to us, ironically, by McDonald's coffee, because my dog decided to wake me up at 5:30 this morning after waking me up twice in the middle of the night. So I'm definitely powered by coffee today. But that's just a funny side note. So let's get to the team metrics here. Overall power rank, Packers are 4th, Browns are 28th. Defense, Packers are 1st. Browns are a very respectable 11th on defense, especially against the run. So they're not going to be pushovers in this game. Power rank on offense, 8th for the Packers, 30th for the Browns. Strength of schedule played, 3rd for the Packers, 1st for the Browns. I don't know if I believe this strength of schedule here. The Browns played the Bengals and really should have won that game, and then they got blown out by the Ravens. I would say the Packers' opponents in the Lions and the Commanders were much more imposing, but there we go. Total offensive snaps, average offensive snaps, excuse me. Packers have 59. The Browns have 76. This is a lot of pass plays, as you see as we dive in deeper. Run play percentage, the Packers are right where they usually are. They're actually lighter. Historically, they're around 50-51% run. They're down to 47.4%, mainly because of the opposition the first 2 weeks of the season and the fact that it really played into the passing game more than normal. I do expect the Packers by the end of the season to be closer to 50% for their run percent plays. But Cleveland Browns, 29.6. That is one of the lowest in the league. They tend to get behind, then they tend to focus on the pass, and then they're not really successful in either of those phases, but they really lean into the pass percent plays, as we can see here. So pass plays for the Packers, 52.6. Pass plays for the Browns, 70%, 70.5%. So the Packers have to watch the receivers. But wait, the Packers actually have one of the best corner duos in the NFL right now. Keyshawn Nixon for PFF is the #1 rated corner, and Carrington Valentine is the 8th rated corner in the NFL for PFF. So this is actually a really good matchup for the Packers, because I think those two players can hold up in the passing game enough for the defensive line to really wreak havoc against Joe the Statue Flacco. So let's look at our quarterback comparison. Is there really a comparison here? Jordan Love is currently ranked as the 5th best quarterback per PFF in the NFL. Hear that, Jordan Love doubters? 5th ranked quarterback. Oh, wait. He's very reckless with the ball. Wrong. It's been over half a season since Jordan Love has thrown an interception. Now, I know there's a couple close calls in week 1, he cleaned that up in week 2, but the reality is to be an NFL quarterback, sometimes you have to put the ball in harm's way to make big plays. So I'm not worried about Jordan Love. Jordan Love is doing an outstanding job of helping the Packers win the turnover percentage over the last half of a season. I think that will continue this week. So really no comparison for the quarterbacks here at all. Okay? So let's take a look at betting. Spread is currently 7.5. I think this is outdated. When I checked this morning, the news of Tucker Kraft playing in this game, plus the injuries for the Browns, had pushed this up to Green Bay -8, which I think 7.5, 8, I'm not really concerned about that. If you're going to play the over, you're going to play the same over if you play 7.5 as if you play 8. Worst comes to worst with 8, it's a push. But winning by 8 is not something that's very common in the NFL. So if you believe in the Packers winning this game by 2 touchdowns, take the Packers to cover. Money line apparently favors the Cleveland Browns because there's some extra juice, 3% juice. Over-under is 41.5. I could go either way on this over-under, so I've stayed away for the over-under in this game. This could be a low-scoring game, or the Packers might roll, and the Cleveland Browns might sputter but score enough points to get over that number. So I think the over-under in this game is a little scary. As you can see, we started at 8.9 early, right after the Packers beat the Commanders, and it's actually gone down, and now it's Cleveland Brown +8. So we're going to have to see what happens in this game. I'm not worried about that. Let's look at impact player injuries here. It would be nice if I could read. So we've got Jaden Reed. We know he's out with a clavicle injury. He is a big loss for this offense, but I think they can use Matthew Golden to offset a lot of that. Tucker Kraft is questionable. We know he's expected to play. He is a top 10 tight end, and he should be a big impact in this game. Zach Tom is questionable. I think it's about 75% chance that he will not play in this game. So I give him 25% chance to play in this game, 75% chance to wait till next week against the Cowboys. Let's look at Browns injuries. We've got very important injuries on the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns. Bonito, guard, he is highly questionable. He has not practiced most of this week, so I think Bonito will not be in this game. Tyler Conklin, I think, is about 50-50 about whether he will play in this game with an elbow injury, but he's not really as impactful. So I think whichever team, whichever player, or if both players are out in this game, you're going to see Micah Parsons matched up against the backup that's thrown into this game to wreak havoc. So I'm very excited about that. As far as lineups, let's take a last look at lineups for this game. We talked about this in the previous video, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here. So we're going to start out with the Packers offense and the Browns defense here. So we're going to look at nickel here for the Packers. Now, a couple important notes here. PFF really needs to update this. I sent him a note, but I don't think they've responded to me yet. So in this diagram, Carrington Valentine should be here, and Nate Hobbs should be here in the slot. And that better represents what we're going to see in this game. McKinney's low rating is just because the opponent is not throwing to him. McKinney is still an elite safety. That's not going to change. Williams is playing the best of his career. He's currently 5th out of 75 rated safeties. So your backside is covered by, I would argue McKinney and how Williams is playing right now, they are in contention to be your best safety duo in the NFL. At linebacker, we've got Cooper and Walker. Walker, I think, is playing better than illustrated here, but I would say he is a starting quality linebacker. And when you combine him with Cooper on the other side, the linebackers become close to elite for the Green Bay Packers. Carrington Valentine is playing well. Nixon is playing out of his mind. He's currently rated as the first number one rated cornerback in the NFL for PFF, which I think is fair given his amazing game against the Commanders. And let's look at our defensive line. We've got Parsons, very solid. Rashawn Gary, very solid. And I want to give a shout out to Wyatt in interior defensive line. He's a former first round pick. This is the first season where he's had the vast number of snaps that he's had so far this year. And Wyatt is playing very well, 15th rated defensive interior lineman. And this is his first year as being a true starter. And that really bodes well for the Green Bay Packers here. Brooks, they list Brooks as 47 here, but you're going to see a lot of players at inside interior defensive lineman next to Wyatt. A lot of the time you're going to see LVN here. Sometimes you're going to see Micah Parsons lined up here. So having Brooks here is kind of a misnomer because the Packers will take their best available pass rusher that is not playing at a set position and will throw him into that spot on rushing the quarterback down. Again, sorry, coming off of a cold here. So let's look at the Browns offense here. Jerry Jeudy is probably the biggest threat here, and he's probably going to be matched up against Carrington Valentine or Keyshawn Nixon most of the time because he doesn't really move into the slot. So I think Jeudy versus Valentine or Nixon, either one of those players should wipe out Jeudy as a big threat in this game. Jeudy will get his yardage, but I don't think it's going to be a big problem. Thrash in the slot. Nate Hobbs should be able to cover the slot all day long in this game. Significant advantage to Nate Hobbs over Thrash. And Tillman really hasn't been a factor on the other side. So the wide receivers are not great for the Cleveland Browns. So I expect the Packers' top-rated secondary. I'm going to say it. If you have elite players at safety and you have people who are rated in the top 10 for PFF, I'm going to call the Packers secondary as elite until they're shown otherwise. And I think the Packers secondary is really going to shut down the passing offense here for Joe Statue Flacco, who's going to be sacked all day. I expect Joe Flacco to be sacked probably 5 or 6 times in this game. And their one player that they really have as a threat, which is Judkins, but the Packers should be able to shut him down effectively. He's a rookie. And I think that's not going to be a factor in this game. Now let's look at the offensive line because the offensive line for the Browns is in bad shape. Okay? We can even switch this to a 2 tight end. Give them the benefit of the doubt. 2 tight end formation. You've got Njoku and Fairman. Farron is kind of like the blocking tight end, and Njoku is the receiving tight end. But he's really not going to be an advantage against a player like Walker or Cooper. I think they'll keep Njoku from being an impact player in this game. But let's look at the offensive line here. We've got Jones, really bad shape, 63 out of 65 tackles. Not the barely starter worthy here. Benito is the first ranked guard in the NFL right now, but he's likely to be out of this game, so they're going to have a backup here. Center play is very mid for the Cleveland Browns, below mid actually, 28th out of 32. Teller is being very solid as the right guard here, and Conklin is possibly out of this game as well, but he hasn't been playing well at right tackle. So the Packers really should dominate this game on defense. All the matchups favor the Green Bay Packers. I can't find a matchup here that is better for the Browns than the Packers. So let's take a look at the defense against the two tight end formation for the Packers, which is their most efficient formation. Let's go to a nickel defense for the Browns. Okay, so we've got solid safety play, although Delpit is questionable for this game, so he might not even play, and he's their best safety, so we'll see what happens there. Linebacker play is very good for the Cleveland Browns. Not going to take that away. There's Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett is really the defensive lineman you got to worry about here. Collins is great at stopping the run, so I'm not taking that any away from him. It's going to be tough sledding in the running game for the Packers this week, but I think they have to commit to the run, as I said in my previous video yesterday, to win this game. They need to focus and accept the fact that they're going to have low production in the running game to keep the defense honest here. They've got good cornerback play with Newsome on one side. Harden and Ward are not that great at the other positions. So this is where Matthew Golden, in my opinion, could be a key to this game, whether he's playing in the slot or playing at outside. I think Matthew Golden is going to have an impact in this game. And I'm going to go over my parlay for this game in a minute, and you'll see that I'm really hoping Matthew Golden comes up big this week. So Myles Garrett is a threat. He'll get in Jordan Love's face a couple times in this game, but the Packers have done a very good job at protecting Jordan Love so far this season. Expect for Fitzpatrick in this example to come up and chip Garrett. So Garrett is a great player, but he primarily plays on one side of the field versus Micah Parsons, who moves all over the place. Garrett does move to defensive tackle sometimes, but primarily he's a right defensive end. So I'm not too worried about this. I think the Packers can do enough to limit Garrett's impact in this game, especially if they take advantage of their clear advantages in the passing game to keep the defense honest. Dobbs against Newsome, I think that's kind of a wash there. Kraft against their linebackers might be a wash. So again, I really think Matthew Golden is going to be a big part of this game. The Packers are going to have to keep the defense honest by giving Jacobs the ball a lot, even if he struggles against a very good defensive line. So we're going to have to see what happens in this game. Let's look at 3 wide receiver personnel for the Packers here. This is not, and I've sent a message to PFF. I don't know if they'll ever listen, but this isn't accurate here. So in this game, if the Packers are going 3 wide receivers, I expect Wicks to be on the outside. I expect Golden to be in the slot. So don't be surprised. Wicks is not a slot receiver. That is not his strength. His strength is being on the outside. So it's going to be Dobbs, Matthew Golden, and Wicks in 3 wide receiver sets this week. And I think the 3 wide receiver set, you're going to have Golden against Harden. That's a matchup for Golden. Wicks against Ward. I think that's an advantage for Ward. So I think offensively we're in a really good spot. The Browns are going to make this a fight. It's not going to be easy. I think the Packers, by the end of the first half, will be up by a touchdown or more. And I think at the end of the game, my prediction is the Packers will win by 10 points or more in this game. I could see a 27-17 type of score, maybe a 30-20, but I do see a 10-point advantage for the Packers in this game. So all the matchups really favor the Packers on offense and on defense in this game. It really comes down to executing and not hurting themselves. Win the turnover game. Don't make mistakes like false starts or lining up offsides. Any of the things that could really give the Browns an opportunity to be successful in this game. And special teams is going to be very important. So one thing I want to talk about here is Bo Melton is expected to be back in this game as a depth corner, but more importantly, as a starter on special teams. His absence was really missed last week, and the special teams for the Packers suffered by not having Bo Melton in this game. With Bo Melton back in this game against the Browns, hopefully that will limit the special teams' mistakes and lead to a Green Bay Packers victory. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to talk about my parlay for the game because I think we've covered the matchups pretty well. We've given you insight into who's going to play, who's not going to play for each game. Let's go to my parlay. Now, if you're not a gambler, you can tune out to this part. But I like to do a parlay every week. My first 2 weeks, I missed out because of Matthew Golden. All the rest of my plays hit. So what we're going to do now is look at my parlay for this week. Now this parlay has 8 options in it. This is not for the faint of heart, my friends, but a $20 wager will get you almost $1,000 with this parlay. Again, gamble responsibly. Only do this if you feel that you have the money to lose. And if you have a gambling problem, please get help. But if you take any 4 of these picks into a parlay, I think you're going to be very successful this week. So I went very aggressive with my parlay. So my parlay was Green Bay Packers minus 7.5. Again, it's currently 8. If you get the Packers at minus 8, I would still make the bet to cover. Matthew Golden with a touchdown. Jordan Love plus 200 yards. Very attainable. Tucker Kraft plus 40. Romeo Doubs 30 yards plus. Matthew Golden 40 yards. Jordan Love 2 passing touchdowns, and Micah Parsons to get a sack. So while there's 8 options on this parlay, I think they're all easily achievable. The Green Bay Packers should cover. I think Matthew Golden is due for a touchdown. Jordan Love, 200 yards passing. Don't see that being a problem in this game. Tucker Kraft, 40 yards. If he plays, I think he will get 40 yards in this game. Romeo Doubs, 30 yards. He's been very consistent with his yardage in these games, so I am very confident Romeo Doubs will get me 30 yards in this game. Matthew Golden, again, I think, especially with Jaden Daniels being out, Matthew Golden is going to get targeted touches in this game. 40-plus yards should be something he could probably do by halftime. Jordan Love, 2+ passing touchdowns. I think Jordan Love will eventually roll in this game because he does very good in man coverage when they blitz him. So I think Jordan Love is going to find ways to be successful and get 2 touchdowns in this game. And Micah Parsons getting a sack. I talked about the fact that I think the Packers will get 5 to 6 sacks in this game. If the Packers get 5 to 6 sacks, Micah Parsons will get at least 1 sack in this game. So I really love this parlay. If you want to be aggressive, again, $20 bet. gets me almost $950 with this 8 play parlay. But if you want to just do 4 of these, I think you could do very well. For example, you could do an assumption that the passing game is going to be successful. So you could do Matthew Golden touchdown, Jordan Love plus 200, Matthew Golden plus 40, and Jordan Love plus 2 passing touchdowns. And you can have a very aggressive passing game parlay here. But I think all of these plays are very attainable if you want to go with an 8-pick parlay in this game. So that's my pregame for today's game against the Browns. We're going to do a post-game show after the game, hopefully breaking down a Packers victory, and we will see you then. So enjoy your Packers. It's been 10 days since we've watched the Packers play. I'm excited to watch them play today. Throw on your Packers gear. Personally, I finally got my Micah Parsons jersey that was back-ordered since the day he announced his number. I finally got it in the mail in time for this game, so that is definitely going to be worn today against the Browns. So we'll talk to you after the game. As always, go Pack Go, gamble responsibly, and have a fun time watching your Green Bay Packers hopefully demolish the Cleveland Browns. Again, this is a test to see if the Packers truly are a championship-level team. They should squash the Browns. Squash the Browns, win by more than 2 touchdowns, and then I'll feel much more confident about the Super Bowl hopes for the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk to you after the game.